I'm Brian Maxwell with Gary's Wine, with Mark Fornatale, the Italian portfolio manager for Michael Skurnik Wines. Welcome.
Thanks. Good to be here.
I brought you in here to taste some wines from Barolos that we're doing a big campaign for, the 2006 Barolos. So why don't you take a second and just kind of tell me what Barolo is for the people.
Well, Barolo is a wine, as you can see, these are 4 Barolos, but Barolo is also a place. There is a town called Barolo. The wine Barolo comes from the town of Barolo, but also in the 12 or so towns that surround the town of Barolo. Barolo, the wine, is made entirely from the Nebbiolo grape. It's what we call a mono-varietal wine. It's just one grape, and it's called Nebbiolo. Nebbia in Italian, of course, means fog, and the hills around Barolo and the surrounding towns often in the morning or in the evening are covered in fog. So the grape is called the little foggy one, Nebbiolo.
Right. So what we're doing is we're really doing the 2006 vintage, and we're really focusing on that, but I want to kind of tell the people why we're focusing on the 2006 vintage.
2006 was a tremendous vintage. And what makes a tremendous vintage? Well, nature does. Weather. It's all about the weather. These are wines. These are agricultural products. In 2006, the weather was fantastic for wine growing. It was a warm summer with just the right amount of rain, and in the fall time, these wines are all harvested sort of the beginning of October, end of September. There was just this stretch of great dry weather, which made the harvest just perfect. There was no rain during the harvest, which might have diluted the wines. Just concentrated, great wines that had a nice long summer to develop.
And I think what that means also is that these wines, in a classic vintage like 2006, they are pretty fruit-forward wines, so they could definitely be drunk young, but cellaring them is definitely going to be where people are going to be rewarding.
Classic is a great adjective to describe these wines, but I have to say that that warm summer gave a lot of fruit, so you've got the balance between the fruit and the structure, which is really what every wine strives for balance, and these wines found it in a great way in 2006.
Excellent. So what I did is we chose 4 wines, all from the Michael Skurnik selection wines from Mark Grazia, and we're going to first start off with 2006 Ravello Gaterra Vineyard. Want to just give us a brief little thing on Gaterra?
Absolutely. What's special about the Mark Grazia wines in general is that they are all small production wines. In fact, of the Gaterra, there are only 450 cases produced, and that is a very, very small number. This is made in the town of Lamora, just north of Barolo. It ages exclusively in large oak casks. The town of Lamora, as you can smell, gives this very open, pretty, perfumed wines. A lot of people say Nebbiolo smells like roses and has all these great floral notes to it, and this wine definitely just encapsulates that. It captures 2006, it captures Lamora right there.
I'll tell you what I get out of this too. There's a lot of red fruits. Nicely structured too. So this one, I would say, you could definitely drink this with decanting. You could definitely drink this young.
Absolutely.
Right forward,
absolutely.
Red fruits, crushed berries.
I'd love this tonight with a with a big steak or a mushroom risotto. I think either way, you're in good shape.
Me too. The next one is Azalea, the producer. 2006 Azalea, San Rocco Vineyard.
Azalea, another small family-run estate. They're in the town of Serralunga d'Alba. As we move from Lamora, sort of south and east into Serralunga d'Alba, the soil gets a little bit more compact. There's more clay in the soil, and this sort of makes these wines more structured. So Azalea's got a little more structure.
And his cousin is Paolo. Is that right? Paolo Scavino. Cousins, right?
Paolo Scavino is the cousin of Enrico Scavino, who owns the Azalea winery.
Yeah, this is definitely a winery that shouldn't be overlooked.
Definitely not. These guys are very, very excited. In fact, San Rocco has won such attention from the international wine press, Wine Advocate, Wine Spectator, you name it. This is a really exciting wine. Again, here production is tiny, just 600 cases for the whole world. That's it. That's it.
What strikes me with this wine is there's great fruit, but you also get that acidity as well.
Yep, yep. You know, acidity in Italian wine, it's what makes it the most food-friendly wine in the universe.
I couldn't agree more. Moving on. I would love to go back to that though, but Segesio La Villa.
Segesio La Villa, okay, Segesio, two brothers who work in the town of Monforte d'Alba. This comes from the La Villa vineyard. La Villa vineyard is steep like this. You can't use a tractor in the La Villa vineyard. Everything is done by hand. Everything is done by hand, and there's only about 1,000, 1,500 cases of this wine made every year. Again, that Monforte terroir, we're getting more of the clay. The soil is super compact. These wines are, Monforte are the most dense expressions of Barolo.
And you can definitely get that out of the nose
just
too.
Tons of power.
Look at the color on
dark,
this.
exactly, darker colors, deeper perfumes.
I'll tell you what, we did a pretty good job of picking wines. Because that's
you feel that, it just stays with you.
There's no doubt about that. I'm glad you said the densest of them, because the difference in these three so far are night and day. And then we get to this one coming up, which is Clerico.
Clerico, Chabat, Mentine, Ginestra. The vineyard is called Ginestra. The part that Clerico has of the Ginestra vineyard is Chabat Mentine. There's these little tiny houses where people used to store their farm equipment for the vineyards, or the Chabats. And this gentleman, Mentine, used to be the owner of this particular Chabat before Clerico took over the vineyard. This is going to be the most dense, the most powerful of all of these wines. Clerico is perhaps the most famous producer of Barolo in Italy, certainly up there with the Gaias and the Giacosas of the world.
And for the price point too, I mean,
probably the most reasonable of all those producers.
What I like about the Ginestra vineyard too, and I'll just get a little geeky for a second, is that there's only a few producers that produce from that specific vineyard.
That's correct.
And in 2006, that whole vineyard shined like
it really did. It really did. Conterno Fantino is another producer in the Ginestra vineyard who makes spectacular wines.
Elio Grasso's another one, right?
Grasso is a great producer. What a,
Now, I don't know, are you connected to these people at all? Can I be buried there? I'd like to.
I'm going to have my ashes sprinkled in the Canubi vineyard in Barolo.
Okay,
but
I'll be in
I can help you out. Yeah.
I'll tell you what. So this has to be a little bit more new oak.
This is 90% new French oak barrels with 10% of used barrels. So, but this, the oak is definitely in tune with the fruit and the tannic structure of the wine.
No doubt about it. This, I mean, 20 years is probably going to sing.
Oh, absolutely.
Like you wouldn't believe.
Absolutely. I've tasted Clerico back into the 80s, and the wines hold up like you wouldn't believe.
Thanks for inviting me. All right, so we're going to wrap this up. 2006, awesome vintage.
Super vintage. Great collection of wines.
Gary'sWine.com. We have a great campaign going on our webpage. Click on that. You'll see all of our selections. Get them while they're hot.
Cheers.
With that being said, cheers, Mark. Thanks.
Salute.